Good evening. Welcome to the City of Opa-locka Special Commission meeting. We have called this meeting during one of our recess months in August to handle some important issues that we need to take care of. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Bass?
I'm here.
Commissioner Burt? Commissioner Burt? Is his mic muted?
Yeah, I'm here. I was having problems. I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Davis?
Here.
Commissioner Kelly?
Present.
Mayor Pygott?
I'm here. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
You're welcome.
Madam Attorney, could you state the emergency procedures that govern this meeting?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, pursuant to Executive Order number 20-69 and subsequent revisions to said order issued by the Office of Governor Ron DeSantis on March the 20th, 2020, municipalities may conduct meetings of the governing boards without having a quorum of its members present physically or at any specific location and utilizing communications media technology such as telephonic or video conferencing as provided by Section 120.54 5B2 Florida statutes. The members of the City Commission appearing remotely for this meeting are Commissioner Bass, Commissioner Burke, Commissioner Kelly, Vice Mayor Davis, and Mayor Pygott. An opportunity was given to the public to email the city clerk prior to the commission meeting with any questions, comments, and concerns on items that will appear on this agenda. And the clerk will make those announcements at the appropriate time if there were people who signed in. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This meeting will be turned back over to you at this time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Weeks. Madam Attorney, Commissioner Kelly, would you lead us in invocation?
Our Father and our God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for all of your many blessings. Continue, God, to watch over this city. Give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Do those things which are pleasing in your sight. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Manager, lead us in Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic in which we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Madam Clerk, could you go over the protocols for public input and also tell us how many and go forward with any public comments we've received?
The public had an opportunity to submit public comments for this meeting up until 4:30 today via email at publiccomments@opalockafl.gov or by calling 786-618-2639 and leaving a pre-recorded message. And at this time, we had 2 public comments.
You may proceed with the public input.
The first one is from Natasha Irving, 670 Dunette Avenue, Opa-locka, Florida. I am so pleased to see the city of Opa-locka is moving in a better direction. I would like to give my props to the officer that gave the tickets to the mayor's cousins that were justifiable. Great job, officer, for doing your job. I'm so pleased to know the days of the old Opa-locka are in our past. The second one is from Miss Mitchell, 22nd Place in Burlington. Hello?
You may proceed.
Oh, 22nd Place in Burlington, Opa-locka, Florida. I find it insane that the police department is held accountable for high crime rate. If the police department has the proper funding, maybe they can get the amount of officers that's needed, vehicle equipment, and taking classes, trainings that is needed. Why is it that when funding becomes available for the police department, they are the first to get their funds cut? How are they expected to do their jobs without having what it takes for them to do their jobs? More officers are needed, more cars are needed, training and equipment is needed. Why are officers sharing vehicles? There should be enough for everyone. When are we going to see that change? Some of you all walk around neighborhoods talking about the changes that would be made once you all walked around the neighborhood. But where is the change once you get in office? All departments need to be held accountable, not just the police department. So just because you sit on the dais, don't think you're not movable.
Does that conclude public comment?
Yes.
Okay. Madam Clerk or Madam Attorney, I know that during special commission meetings, there is input on agenda items only. Does that really have to take any effect during this time of COVID, or do we continue with this? How does that work? Madam Attorney or Madam Clerk?
How do agenda items work where people
So
asked to speak on the agenda?
yes, and on public comment, as you see, public input, since this is a special commission meeting, it says agenda items only. During this era of virtual meetings, how does that get regulated? Is there any guidance on that?
I guess if you guys wanted to put something in place, otherwise the rules that would normally apply would still apply. I think that you probably want to be, somewhat, because you can't see people in person, so you probably want to err on the side of allowing public comment in a broad way. However, if the commission wanted to put something in place that limited comments only to agenda items, I think we could probably legally defend that as well.
Okay. All right. I just want to get official guidance on that. All right. We have
Mr. Mayor,
resolution.
Mr. Mayor, may I? You have the draft agenda up from the agenda briefing. There is the updated agenda that was sent out yesterday.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to agenda item 6A, and I will remove this one.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, authorizing the city manager to piggyback General Service Administration GSA contract GS07F 173GA for the purchase and installation of an Avalon access control system for the municipal complex in an amount not to exceed $60,000, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bass. Any discussion on this item?
Mayor,
Commissioner Kelly?
thank you. To the manager, I know the system we have is old. Where would this system be managed from?
It will be managed from the City Hall, and to provide more information, I yield my time to the Director of Information Technology, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. This system is intended to branch out to every facility in the city of Opa-locka in the future. This was in response to an issue that happened in the northern states where a former employee came up and there was some security issues and there was a crime committed and there was a concern of security in our building. When the city purchased the building, there was a system in place, but there are no locks or access control on the 4th floor or in the police department. So it leaves all secure areas vulnerable. We don't know who's going in and out. There's been many allegations of files missing or things missing from departments. So every employee will have to swipe in and swipe out of every department and every secure area, including the elevators. The idea is, like I said, to branch out to our parks and recreation and implement the same thing there, to our public works facility, to our lift stations. So we have a true grasp of who's going in and out of our secure locations. But like the manager said, the main system will be housed in the City Hall building.
So, Mr. Mayor, so this system is for the entire city, not just City Hall?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, you
Is
can
that what I'm
speak.
hearing you say?
That is correct. This system initially is for the City Hall. It's for all of the 4th floor. It's for the secure locations on the on the third floor of the police department. It's for all the perimeter doors on the first floor and for the elevators. But the same system can be expanded for all the other facilities. So the same system will actually control all city buildings.
But what we're doing now is $6,000 is for fourth floor, third floor, first floor.
And elevators, correct.
And it will be managed from one console somewhere in the building.
Correct. The actual server that controls everything will be in the same location where all the other city servers are located on the fourth floor, which is under video surveillance 24 hours a day.
So the company or whoever's downstairs in the first floor will be able to see all over the same way like that old system did as well?
They'll be able to see whatever we allow them to see. So if we want to give, they currently have all access to the cameras. So they see the cameras. This is just door access control. But yes, if we want them to have access to, if doors are left open and such things, we can give them that access.
So they will have access to that as well? Because I hear your wording saying they can. I'm trying to understand the system. I understand security. I got all of that. But one of the challenges we tend to have is we have security, we have monitors, we have this, but nobody's manning them to really see who's going in or out. So this is going to be controlled at City Hall from one console. But the cameras, they're going to have access to security to be able to see around whatever we allow them to see. Is that the wording you use?
That is correct. And the reason I use whatever we allow them to see is because we can granularly control their access. So for example, if we want to allow them to bypass locks and then they can sit at their console and open doors without employees logging in, we can allow that. But do we want to allow that? Because then we lose control of knowing who's going in and out.
Okay, but ultimately the responsibility if someone comes in and says something happened, like you alluded to the situation in North Florida, that responsibility will lie, I guess, on you because you're the IT director, whatever. You have the be able to pull up wherever from wherever via the manager.
That is correct. But and the
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other discussion on this item? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis. Vice Mayor,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Mayor Pygott.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Next motion.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, authorizing the city manager to piggyback Region 4 ESC, National Intergovernmental Purchasing Alliance, National IPA, and RL National Roofing Partners, LLC, doing business as National Roofing Partners, NRP, now Omnia Partners, contract number 180901 FL015 for qualified professional services for roofing repair relating to the Public Works Fleet Management Facility to be performed by Provincial South Inc., PSI Roofing, in an amount not to exceed $41,625.25, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Burke,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Bass. The floor is open for discussion.
Mayor Pygott,
Commissioner Bass.
thank you so much. I am elated to see this on our agenda today. I was over there a couple weeks ago, and to me, it was just horrifying to see a city-owned building looking in that shape. So I'm happy about this one. Thank you.
Mayor Pygott,
Commissioner Burke.
as, piggybacking on Commissioner Bass. Yes, this has been a long time coming. When it rains over there, the guys can't even work inside on the cars. So this has been a long time coming. I'm happy to see this. Well, we're being able to take care of this. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Sorry, Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Mayor Pyatt.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Madam Attorney?
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, authorizing the city manager to piggyback on the Region 4 Education Service Center National Intergovernmental Purchasing Alliance, National IPA contract with RL National Roofing Partners, LLC, doing business as National Roofing Partners, NRP, for qualified professional services for the installation of a new roof for the Ingram Park restrooms and for work to be performed by Provincial South, Inc., PSI Roofing, an amount not to exceed $50,000, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor
Move it.
Davis,
Second.
second by Commissioner Kelly. Floor is open for discussion.
Pyatt,
Commissioner Bass,
thank you. Well overdue, well overdue.
any other discussion on this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And Vice Mayor Davis?
Thank you. Yeah, just to echo Commissioner Bass' comments, long overdue. Glad to see Ingram Park is coming back online. As you know, we got the Park Summit this week. Definitely looking forward to that, and restructuring our parks and leisure services. So kudos to management for getting this done and getting our bathrooms back online, and hopefully we'll see football and a bunch of leisure services in the future. So thanks again.
Any other discussion on this item? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pyatt.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Madam Attorney?
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with EAC Consulting, Inc. for continuing professional architectural and engineering consulting services to perform a sanitary sewer evaluation survey, Phase 3, for lift stations 4, 5, 7, and 8, pursuant to RFQ number 20-032-4200, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
You have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Burt,
Second.
second by Vice Mayor Davis. And I apologize, I usually let the sponsor speak and introduce the item. So Mr. Manager, please introduce this item to us in the public. You're on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I yield my time to the Director of Public Works, Mr. Austin, to introduce this item.
This item is for the smoke testing and flow testing of the four last remaining pump stations that are currently on the moratorium. By November, which is the end of rainy season, we hope to have these stations cleared out of moratorium by performing this last function for flow testing and smoke testing of the stations. One of them has been finished with the gravity system repairs. The other three are moving forward to have those services performed before this service can be done. So we wanted to get it in line. So after those repairs have been made, we could move smoothly into getting these stations out to moratorium.
All right. Any discussion on this item? All right. I'd just like to state and give kudos to Public Works Director and Management, Public Works Director. Over the past, I think it's been 3, maybe 4 years, we went from 18 out of 19 pump stations not fully operational. And by the conclusion of this year, we will have all of those up and running and out of during moratorium, which will lift the burden that was placed upon our business districts to where they could not get any new occupational licensing and all those things due to the moratorium. So much respect for a huge accomplishment, and that hopefully this will solidify that and ensure that our business community can thrive throughout the city of Opa-locka. We'll be out of during moratorium, and all of our pump stations will be online. So kudos, Mr. Austin, for your hard work in taking care of this. No other discussion on this item? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Mayor Pygott.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, authorizing the city manager to execute a memorandum of understanding between the City of Opa-locka, Florida and the Dade County Police Benevolent Association, PBA Inc., to authorize a 1% bonus to PBA bargaining unit members for time substantially dedicated to mitigating the impact of COVID-19 for the period between April 1st, 2020 and the start of the first full pay period in December 2020, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date, and this is sponsored by the city manager.
Do I have a motion?
Move for discussion?
Moved by Commissioner Kelly,
Second.
second by Commissioner Burke. Mr. Manager, you introduce this item.
Yes, this item was a highly contested item back in the beginning of COVID-19, where communities were urged to provide police department employees and first responders with specific incentive for working in those conditions. Miami-Dade County has set aside a pool of money to pay all first responders that were directly working COVID-19 related work a 1% bonus. This is considered a bonus. Of course, how it works is we have to execute a MOU with the union because, of course, this is not in collective bargaining terms. Once this MOU is executed, we calculate the 1%, what that would be. It will be sent up to the county for approval. We would make the payment and they would reimburse the city that payment that we made to those individual officers for the hours worked in the past and in the future up to the pay, one of the pay periods in December.
All right. Any discussion on this? Floor is open for discussion.
Mr.
Mr.
Mayor.
Mayor.
I don't know who went first. I heard two. Commissioner Kelly, go ahead.
Thank you. Just a question to the manager. This 1% only covers those in the bargaining unit of the PBA, that just officers?
That is correct. No management personnel above the rank of sergeant is entitled to this money. Only collective bargaining unit members, so it'd be police officers, corporals, and sergeants, lieutenants, deputy chief, assistant chief, chief, major, or any other rank above sergeants not included in this. And they specifically put out guidance that any administrative personnel or administrative management personnel do not qualify for the 1%.
So, okay, so the guidance they sent out actually restricted who could get it and had to be in the bargaining unit.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad to see them getting it.
All right, Vice Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the manager, the 1%, as far as the timeline is concerned, is it from April to December? So is it timed, I guess, that was incurred during that time period only?
Yes, it'd be March through December. The city has already been documenting COVID-related activities and COVID-related time for FEMA reimbursement anyway. So this is just a simple pool of payroll documents for the rank of officer, corporal, and sergeant, and submitting those documents to the county for preliminary approval, and then making those payments and then actually getting reimbursement from the county.
Okay, so it's on a reimbursement basis. So we still gotta kind of expend the money and just show the documentation, and we'll be expected to recoup those funds, I guess, once
Yes.
all that process takes place.
Yes, and the good thing is the county is saying they are making reimbursement payments twice a week. Once everything is set in the system, so in the next couple of weeks when they start making payments, they will be making direct deposit to payments twice a week. So the money will come back quite quickly,
Okay.
allegedly.
Okay, well, good news for now, I guess.
Any other discussion on this item? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Mayor Pigot.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Madam Attorney.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, authorizing the city manager to execute an interlocal agreement between the City of Opa-locka, Florida and Miami-Dade County in order to authorize the transfer of funds received by Miami-Dade County through the CARES Act to the City of Opa-locka, Florida as reimbursement for expenditures incurred in response to the health emergency caused by COVID-19, provided for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis,
Second.
second by Commissioner Kelly. Mr. Manager, please introduce this item.
This is an interlocal agreement that the county requires the city enter into prior to exchanging funds from the CARES Act money to the municipality. There are very strict rules within the interlocal agreement, auditing requirements and various other requirements that are required. This is required to receive any type of compensation from the CARES Act from Miami-Dade County to the city.
Floor is open for discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Kelly.
exactly how much are we talking about at this moment, Mr. Manager? I know this can be ongoing, but how much are we talking about transferring right now
Understood.
for the reimbursements? I'm sorry.
I yield my time to the acting interim finance director, Ms. Jerry Lazar, for that answer. Her team is working on the reimbursement documentation as we speak.
Good evening, commissioners, guests. So currently, the way CARES Act funding is with the county is that 75 million has been allocated for operating activity, and another 25 million has been allocated for new programs and projects. Basically, they had a training session earlier today with the different municipalities, basically stating that the money is available until it dries up. So right now we have, I'd say maybe approximately $200,000 to $300,000 in expenses between payroll and other costs. And so we're looking to see which ones we can actually get reimbursed on FEMA, and what we can't get reimbursed on FEMA, we will use the CARES Act funding through Miami-Dade County to get reimbursed. Because the way that Miami-Dade County is stating it is that if we can get reimbursed through FEMA, then they would prefer us to get reimbursed through FEMA because that is a larger pot of funds. And so whatever we can't get reimbursed through FEMA will get reimbursed through the CARES Act funding.
Okay, kind of staticky. I don't know. I think I heard you say whatever FEMA does not reimburse, the CARES Act would. Did you say that correctly?
If it meets their eligibility requirements, yes, we can get it reimbursed from that perspective.
Okay, so as it stands now, you say we have about 250,000 and reimbursement for expenditures at this moment.
Right, so Mr. Anderson had been collecting, like the manager stated, COVID costs for quite some time. So we're going through to determine what is eligible, right? So although there was a lot of expenses, not everything is gonna meet the requirements. So we're working with the consultants that Miami-Dade County hired to see which projects that we actually incurred costs for that we can get reimbursed. So for example, if we had to recreate a remote workforce landscape, FEMA is not reimbursing that. They're not reimbursing for PEX, I can't say that plastic board that you have to have between the employee and your guests that are coming into the facility. FEMA is not reimbursing that. But we found that the CARES Act through Miami-Dade County will reimburse that. So we're trying to go through the different expenses to see on which side we can get it reimbursed on to determine the number, okay, right? Because it will change depending on what they allow.
Okay, last question to the manager, I guess. Do we have any identified expenditures that we don't believe CARES Act or FEMA would reimburse? Or we believe all of them will be covered one way or the other?
We're still doing that assessment, but we're looking at most likely a majority will be reimbursable costs like for example, what I learned today, right?
Mhm.
Employees working remotely, they will reimburse an office setup for an individual working remotely. So a desk, a computer, a printer, a workstation at home for an employee working remotely, that's 100% reimbursable. We just learned that today. So what they're saying is they don't know if there's the money is there, the money needs to be dried up. At this point, their projections, they don't see all the money being used. So they want the municipalities to engage with the consultants to see what monies, future monies can be allocated so the monies can be dried up and they don't have to return the monies back to the United States government for it to be used somewhere else. So today,
That's why I'm asking that question.
as far as what the money can be used for, it kind of opened the door to a lot of other possibilities that the city can kind of use to get reimbursable items done.
Okay, that's why I asked the question, because I know they don't want to send any money back. And I've heard that, like you said today, where in certain things that they were not contemplating or thinking about reimbursing, they are looking at it now, such as the working at home. So, okay, I hope we take advantage of that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other discussion on this item? All right, Mr. Manager, I know that we have a testing center that has reached a capacity of 500 people, and there's a lot of parking going on around that testing center. And if I visited other testing centers, they've had officers and parking people and National Guard that have directed parking to make sure that is not infringing upon private property owners and homeowners. Will this money be able to be allocated for us to do something to ensure that people that come to Opa-locka to get COVID testing are properly directed to designated parking locations, and then from those locations to the testing center?
We can attempt to look at resources that we have through temporary work hiring to see if we can fulfill that. I can tell you our police department will not be able to fulfill that mission due to, as you know, the crime rate that we're dealing with, the shootings and various other things. We cannot pull officers off the street to cover parking. I will talk to Mr. Ellis. He's overseeing the program with South Florida Workforce. And let's see if we kind of reallocate those people to do parking, because we are having issues with placing people within the city hall because of criminal records and various different things like that. So maybe those people be better suited to kind of work the parking detail instead of working interior in one of our facilities. I can talk to Mr. Ellis about that.
I just want to make sure that that's handled as soon as possible. There's been a lot of concerns with our residents and our homeowners about potentially COVID positive people parking in their yards and their medians and all those things. And it's been going on for a few weeks now, and it is on us as a government to address it. And I'm hoping that we can address it and be reimbursed using these CARES Act funds. I love the idea of continuing to set up, giving our employees an opportunity for them to work from home with hotspots, internet, so that the productivity doesn't drop too significantly during this time. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do to take this government to post-pandemic or in pandemic state of operation without hurting our bottom line too much. So thank you for your thoroughness in this. And with that, if there's no other discussion on the item, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
Yes.
Mayor Pyatt.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, amending the annual general proprietary and special revenue funds budgets for the fiscal year commencing October 1, 2019 and ending September 30th, 2020, adjusting revenues and expenditures as reflected in Exhibit A, providing for the expenditure of funds established by the budget, authorizing the city manager to take certain actions, providing for appropriation of all budgets and expenditures, providing for fees consistent with appropriations and amendment, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for conflicts and repealer, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis, second by
Second.
Commissioner Burke. Mr. Manager, you introduce this item.
I'll yield my time to the Budget Administrator, Mr. Anathan, to explain the item.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Bob Anthony and Budget. This budget amendment contains 13 different recommended items, 4 of them which I would consider to be material, and the other 13 are primarily administrative in nature. Of the 4 that are significant, the first 2 were known late spring, but after the budget amendment 3 was already submitted and therefore not included. Most importantly, they were included in the forecast that became part of the proposed FY21 budget. The first of the 2 has to do with wastewater processing. In late spring, enough information became available to indicate that the cost that was budgeted for wastewater processing was not sufficient to deal with what was going to actually occur. This budget amendment recommends the inclusion of another $600,000 to cover that. By way of comparison, the actuals last year before a year-end adjustment were 2.7. The budget was 2.2. This will get the budget back up in the 2.8 range. It's consistent with the amount of water that's being, wastewater that's being processed and the current rates. Second item had to do with the relining of the portion of collection basin number 4. Again, in late spring, it was recognized that this should be undertaken at this time. This was included in the forecast that was part of the budget that was submitted. I'm sorry, part of the FY21 budget that was submitted. It catches up and brings this year's budget in line with the forecast for FY20 that was submitted at that time. Third item is new news. Monies had been estimated as to what it would be required to renew the air conditioning system over at Shabandi Community Center. It turned out that estimate was not sufficient, and it, based on the quotes received, another $100,000 is going to be required. That's the number 3 in the list of 13. The final one that is new news is with the reorganization of the police department. It's been determined that the most appropriate way to fill that position would be through a national search, and it's been proposed that $24,500 be made available for that, which is item number 11 in the proposed budget. The other 9 in the items are primarily administrative and housekeeping nature, and I won't go into them unless anybody has any question on them.
Any discussion on the budget? Matt, hold on. This is a public hearing item, correct? Because it's the ordinance. We need to continue, Madam Attorney? Does this go through first reading, second reading, public hearing?
Correct. It's an ordinance.
Yes, this is an ordinance.
All right, Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Mayor.
All right, then the floor is open for discussion.
So Mayor,
Vice Mayor Davis.
thank you. Through the mayor to the manager, how do we underestimate $100,000 job?
And what line are you speaking of, Vice Mayor?
I'm speaking in reference to the air conditioning. I think it's at Shabandi Village, the issue that we kind of been dealing with for a while.
I yield to the Budget Administrator.
That's a tough one to answer. A preliminary estimate was made and it turned out not to be accurate.
Okay. That's the first time I think I've experienced that, but okay.
I could speak to that if you allow me to. The estimate was based on replacing the AC units alone. An inspection of the systems determined that we need to replace the pre-coolers as well as the AC units. And those coolers are very expensive because they're energy savers and they normally don't go bad, but due to the Hurricane Irma, we suffered some damage to those pre-coolers and they need to be replaced along with the AC units.
Oh, okay. So like a work order, kind of change order type of thing. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Commissioner Kelly.
thank you. Mr. Manager, under number 8, I guess is Road and Streets, you're making a adjustment, was budget for 2. You're making an additional, I guess, 11 for it to be 13 due to, you said workload. Is that due to just straight overtime or special projects? I know we just had the hurricane issue, but that's normally kind of looked at separately. That primarily overtime for special things that have occurred? Hello?
Commissioner, I yield my time to the Director of Public Works or the Budget Administrator to answer that question in detail.
It's Bob Anthony here. I'm going to defer to the Public Works Director.
In light of us having the under number of manpower needed in the public works to perform our regular responsibilities, we're using these funds to allocate additional overtime so we could try to address some of our concerns in an overtime basis rather than on a regular basis with the number of staff members that we have at this time.
Is this, Mr. Mayor, to the manager, to the public director? So this will be inclusive even of challenges for hurricane related, whatever, or would that be considered separate?
That may be considered separate, but it's gonna be, that's also gonna be used towards those efforts as well.
Okay, all right. The second question that I had for the number 11, no, wait a minute, not number 11, trying to see. The recruitment or something, let me see. Yeah, number 11, the recruitment search, you're asking for 24,500 for recruitment purposes for a new chief?
That's correct.
All right, somebody want to tell me why that number is so high?
So typically, this is going to be a national search for a chief of police. This national search is going to consist of several public input sessions where the public will be able to provide input on the characters and various attributes that they want as a chief of police, to include multiple sessions with the commission to understand what they're looking for a chief. A detailed profile will be placed out nationally based on our requirements, and a national search will proceed with various requirements such as testing, background check, several interviews with myself, and actually most likely in the final round, once a finalists are chosen, it'll probably be a public forum similar to how I was hired, where the commission and the public will be able to ask the candidates questions, and ultimately a candidate is selected. So this is going to be a first-class search for a chief of police that has experience and that is to achieve or deal with the issues of Opa-locka.
Okay, I'm not supportive of paying 24.5 at this point for a search on a chief. I wish it had been segmented out of this budget amendment so I could oppose it without opposing the whole amendment, because I understand the need for the other items. I can't support 24.5 for a search. Given the fact, Mr. Manager, my colleagues, all due respect, we brought you in, sir. You have experience in law enforcement and the like, And so to me, we could conduct a search without a national firm, given your background expertise, and do level background checks, 2, 3, whatever, and utilize your experience and spending $25,000 on a national search. That's just my opinion, but I wish there was a way to segue it out so I could just oppose that without the whole item. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Burke.
from the mayor to the manager. Mr. Manager, on this national search, would the city also be required, wherever we find this chief at, to move this chief, pay for this chief moving expenses into the city as well?
That's potentially are gonna look at that, as well as a potential salary increase for the position as well. And all that's gonna be evaluated through the recruitment process, and of course, it's gonna be vetted and approved by the commission prior to anything going out.
So, Mr. Manager, okay, do you think we really need a national search? I mean, the state of Florida is a pretty large state. And if we're gonna have to spend the $25,000 to do the search, and then it's probably, once we find somebody, if they got to come in from another state, then that's another $30,000 or $40,000 to move them here, right?
Yeah. Correct. No, not another 30 or 40,000. Like my move from Chicago was only $10,000, so I don't see another $30,000 or $40,000 to move somebody from anywhere in the United States to Florida. I mean, it's at what the commission wants. I think this police department deserves a national search to bring in a chief from outside the state of Florida to move the department forward. I've already looked at the pool of individuals that we have in South Florida, just looking at the major recruitment that we did. I just don't feel like we're going to get the top stock based on, just the circumstances and what we're dealing with currently.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I'm not just saying South Florida. I'm talking about the state of Florida. I mean, we have many law enforcement agencies in the state of Florida. And I'm sure we can get a well-qualified person. I don't think we have to leave the state of Florida to find a qualified police chief. But I yield to my colleagues.
And I would say if the commission wants to yield against the manager's recommendation, that is the commission's prerogative, and I will do whatever I am directed to do or make adjustments as necessary.
Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Thank you. Through the mayor, I guess to the manager, the attorney, whoever's better fit to answer the question. I know with the national search with the city manager, we referred to the charter, and that was pretty much outlined in the charter to go after a national search. And I don't think that was ever done with the manager, which is why we kind of moved in that direction. Is that same requirement in place for, I guess, finding a new police chief?
Mr. Vice Mayor, it is not a requirement that you search for a police chief in that way. The only thing that is a requirement is that it is the manager's decision who he selects, but how it's selected, whether it's a search firm or any other way, that's not a requirement.
Okay, so it's pretty much what we want to do. It's not outlined in the charter. Okay, thank you, Madam.
Yeah, the only thing that's outlined is that whatever ends up being the final result would be the decision of the city manager. So the city commission cannot select the chief. That would be a decision of the city manager.
So if the final selection I guess, lies with the city manager, then what level of authority, I guess, ultimately do we have in that process outside of approving so we can approve the search, but we can't select the candidate?
That's correct. That's correct. You could decide, or you could decide you don't want to fund a search, and the city manager would have to do it without funding a search. Or you could decide you're going to let him have the discretion to do whatever he chooses to do. But the final decision of it all would have to be the city manager's decision, because he's the person who hires and fires that position.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Manager.
the city of Opa-locka is moving in a different direction, a positive direction. I urge the commission to please invest these funds to search for a chief nationally. The city deserves it. You guys search for me nationally, okay? I think your key positions is your city manager, your police chief. If you had a fire department, your fire chief. Those are key positions that I think should be given the opportunity to a national search if necessary. Opa-locka has a lot of history with its police department. We need to move the police department to the next level. I understand I'm a person with law enforcement experience, and yes, I'm holding the police department on my shoulders right now, but they need a leader to take them to the next level. And and look at all the chiefs we've had in the past. Nobody's taking this department to the next level, and it's needed. I yield to the commissioner. Please allow me to do my job by providing me this funding. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Burke.
Mr. Manager, we're not trying to interfere with you doing your job. I'm just saying the state of Florida is a big state. And I don't think, well, my opinion, I think the state of Florida have a lot of good agencies in here. And I personally don't think we need to go outside the state to find a certified and an experienced and a good chief. No, that's my opinion. I mean, I'm sure we can do it right here in the state of Florida, and save that. That's $30,000. Then we're also going to have to boost it up to get a real good chief. We're also going to have to bump his salary. So, that's my thinking. But to say that we need to go outside the state of Florida to find an experienced and a certified chief, I think we can do it right here in the state of Florida, Mr. Manager. That's my opinion.
So being that I know that I'm not a law enforcement expertise or professional, I will yield to the the city manager, who is a former chief of police, who, if he, in his own expertise, believes that national search is required, I'm not going to, I guess, combat that because I don't have that that expertise. Two, I know that public safety has been a high priority in this community for decades. And just as though we continue to say we need more police officers, officers need better equipment, officers need higher pay. Hold on, I'm getting some feedback. Officers need higher pay and quite a few things. Then it leads to reason that if we're going to create change and ensure that public safety is addressed in the city of Opa-locka, we need to make the investments to do so. One of the reasons why we hired Mr. Pate was because he was a former chief of police, and his expertise in terms of public safety and addressing this. And he said it multiple times in this conversation. He strongly recommends this to help him do his job, his due diligence, what we hired him for. So I am more than willing to take that step to ensure that we get the best, because one of the things we need strong leadership in the police department. We need people that are not associated with what's been going on in the police department. Someone that can bring this police to, as the manager said, 21st century police scene. And if that's what he needs to do it, why not give it to him? There's a lot of investments that we've been making here on this, right in this budget amendment, and that we've done in previous budget amendments. And this right here is that investment into our police, into our public safety, to ensure they get the best leader that can develop them as officers, look at the latest research and crime statistics from all across this nation, and make sure that that expertise is brought into the city, and finally address our issues with public safety. So, Mr. Manager, and for my colleagues, I would say let's make this, because this is probably the most significant decision we will ever make in regards to our police department, as commission, as people sitting on this dais. And if it costs that to do so, I'm willing to make those costs for our residents in the city of Opa-locka, especially with this high crime.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Burke.
Public safety has always been a top priority. I don't think there's nobody more than me that want a real certified and experienced police chief. I'm just saying, to bring somebody from up north down here, when we got the whole state of Florida, you're saying that we don't have qualified chiefs of police in the state of Florida? I know what this police department has been through. I know what the officers have been through. But bringing somebody from Chicago or bringing somebody from New York, that don't mean we're getting the best. That don't mean we're getting the best. I still say the state of Florida have a good pool of law enforcement officers. Thank you.
Oh, and one thing I do want to add, and I think it's being overlooked, is not just recruiting nationally, because even if we put out an application, we can get applicants from all across the nation, all across the state of Florida. What I think what's a big part of this is the level of investment into looking at those people's backgrounds, doing the research, bring them down to do interviews, and giving our public an opportunity to weigh in on this, giving us an opportunity to weigh in on it. So if we, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Manager, if we don't do that, now we're just saying, Mr. Manager, you hire the next police chief, and us as a commission, us as the public, don't get that opportunity to weigh in. And we're going to lend upon the manager's time, which we're in a COVID-19 pandemic. We're dealing with a flooding emergency. We have a financial emergency that we're dealing with. And there are a number of serious issues that the manager has to dedicate his time to. So now we're going to put on top of all those issues, him being the sole person responsible for doing all that due diligence necessary to research all these candidates, go through all these applicants, and pick someone. So that's the body of work. And I know that many of us understand this, because when we did go through the manager, there was a huge book that gave a lot of insight into the candidates. And I know me personally, I think me, and I know other people on the commission probably want to see more about these people. That may be our next chief of police. I know our public will want to get an understanding of those people. And the manager is saying he needs help to put that level of investigation and community and commission participation together, no matter if they're here in the state or nationally, that thorough research is done. So that's why, Mr. Manager, and I say again, I'm more than happy to do what's necessary and follow your lead on this.
Mr. Mayor, what, Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Hold on. I think Commissioner Bass
Please.
I had some Commissioner Bass and Vice Mayor, then I'll come back to you, Commissioner Burke.
Thank you so much. I understand the financial obligations that this would cost the city. That's a huge concern for me. And at the same time, I'm thinking, we need what's best for the city. We spend X amount of dollars to get our city manager here because we trust him to do what he knows is best for the city. So my point of view is, if the city manager who we hired, who we're paying all this money to, suggests that we go this route, then I think we should, because there will be no excuses for him not to do his job. That's all I have to say. And again, the money is a concern for me, but if that's how he feels that's best for our city, then being city manager, I have to trust him, but the money is a concern. And like someone else stated earlier, only God knows how much we're gonna have to pay this new police chief because of the state that our city in. That's a concern for me. And it's a possibility that we might end up with a police chief out of Florida. We don't know that, but I just think at this point, I've been a resident in Opa-locka for over 30 years, and the police department sucks, it stinks. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who's thinking that. I'm sure our residents are thinking that, not just thinking that, they know that. And I don't have any intentions of leaving my city, and I want to be safe when I go up down the street. My kids want to be safe. Our kids, the residents want to be safe. So we spend lots and lots of money on lots of things that wasn't important to other people. But as a whole, to have a police department that is functioning the way it should, having a police chief who knows how to function the way he or she should, this is a risk I think we need to take to ensure that our city is well protected and our police department is managed the correct way. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to note one thing. When we performed a national search for a city manager, remember we decided on the city manager as a board. The difference between what we did then and what we're doing now is it's more of an arbitrary decision. So based on what the attorney said earlier, it ultimately lies to the manager, which I don't necessarily have a problem with. However, what I do have a problem with is the amount of money that's being expended up front. So we're expending $24,000, not to decide as a board, to allow the city manager to select a police chief. In my opinion, if we're going to expend that kind of money, I would have a level of comfort, having that decision on the board. But we can't ultimately go against the charter. It's not outlined there. So, but I think that's where my problem lies. Without us deciding as a board, I agree with you, Mayor Paget. That information that was gathered during the national search for the city manager was, it's very informational, and I enjoy, kind of making that decision. And I think, Mr. Pate has done a great job. I also agree, with his recommendation, if he feels that's what he needs to do,
okay,
the national search, I'm in agreement with that as well. But I just have a problem, I guess, with the amount of money that's being expended, and us as a commission not really being able to weigh in on that.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Manager, and then Commissioner Kelly.
So,
Commissioner Byrd.
So how these national searches tend to go? There's public input sessions. There's input sessions with the commission. The commission will have the ability to question the applicants. The commission will have the ability to provide input in their suggestions. So this is not a process where the commission is just X'd out. They have no say-so at all whatsoever. It just says the charter says the city manager needs to make the decision. But that's based on public input, commission input, their background, and various other factors that are in there. So this doesn't X the commission out and not being participatory in the process. All it says, city manager makes a decision, but you guys are able to provide input too. this is a participatory process, especially with the public. So you all are not X'd out of the process.
Okay, I mean, if we're gonna be involved and, you know, I don't see a problem with it, but like I said, I just can't see myself voting in favor of spending that sort of money and, you know, not having the commissioner have no say so and just kind of have it, you know, arbitrarily kind of done by the manager. That's my take on it.
Right. Commissioner Kelly.
I have several questions, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Kelly, your mic, you got to log back on.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
what's concerning to me is that we're debating about spending $25,400 or $500 for a search for a police chief, and we just approved $100,000 to replace an air conditioner. And as you all know, finding a police chief is very important to me. It's very important to our officers to have quality leadership. And there's no pre-chosen person from Chicago or New York or anywhere else. The search firm will have the ability to narrow down the candidates, just they narrowed down the candidates with the city manager search, and they provide a recommended slate. So I'm not even involved in the selection process until they recommend the slate. So I'm not in the weeds when the process begins. I'm in the weeds when they come down with semifinalists. So really, that's what we're paying a search firm to do. So this is not to select somebody from up north or anything like that. And I'll be honest with you, to be very bold with you, as the manager, I have the ultimate right to hire the police chief. I can bypass this whole process. If I had somebody in mind from Chicago or wherever, I could hire him right now and the commission wouldn't be able to do anything. But that's not the process that I'm doing. I want this to be participatory, where the residents are all top-notch and professional. When we're going to do things top-notch and professional and lay things out for our residents to show that this is a new commission and we're doing things new, instead of just making an arbitrary decision, pick anybody from Florida. Oh, you got people in Florida. There may be people in Georgia. There may be people trying to relocate with 30 years of experience. Opa-locka has very unique issues that it's going to take a unique chief to come in here and deal with. Period.
Mr. Mayor.
We'll let Commissioner Kelly jump on and then Commissioner Byrd.
Is Commissioner Kelly back?
Yes, he is, but Commissioner Kelly, are you mic? What?
Yes, I'm just waiting. I heard Commissioner Byrd.
Go ahead, Commissioner Kelly.
I have several questions. Number one, Mr. Mayor, to the attorney, can this part be fabricated out by itself with the chief allocation, or as we vote on as a whole?
Mr. You can propose an amendment to amend this budget. So that's what I was actually waiting for, someone to propose an amendment.
I can't hear you.
We need to propose an amendment to this budget to remove that allocation. So if you put a motion and it's seconded, then it will go before vote and discussion.
No, the question asked the attorney. Can you fabricate this out? I just want to know yes or no.
Yes, sir. The mayor is correct. Commissioner Kelly, you could propose an amendment, and that amendment would then allow you to pretty much take that issue out of the budget, and then you go back to the main motion.
Okay, I just want to hear you say it. You're the attorney, not the mayor. The second thing is, I want to, Mr. Manager, you made the statement about a new day and the search, but if we were going to do a search, in my opinion, that was this critical, we should have done a national search for a finance director, because that was the critical thing that we've been missing and can't find anybody. So we were going to do a national search. To me, that would have been the priority. I have no doubt that we need a new chief and what have you, but I have a challenge with spending $24,000 on a search at this point. If you have told me you had put it out and all the folks that applied you didn't think could handle the job, or were not qualified, or you felt were not unique to be able to handle Opa-locka situation, that might be different. But that has not occurred. And as the vice mayor alluded, yes, we might have a meeting with this person and they're going to say all the right things, I'm quite sure. But ultimately, that decision is yours and yours only, regardless of what the commission may think. So it's not in any way the same as the manager, the attorney, or the clerk, because those are the only three that work for us. I have a problem with 24/5. I don't have a problem with you want to do a search. I have a problem at this point at 24/5 when you got, as you said, police department has challenges, and some of them deal with administration, but some of them deal with equipment and other stuff that, you know, if you're going to do something to really raise morale and do some stuff, you can spend that 24/5, in my opinion, right now and do that. That's just my opinion. I'm going out the door. I know there's a change wave, but I cannot support 24/5 for a search at this moment. And so that's why I asked to do the amendment of the motion to take that part out so that we can vote the others. And Mr. Mayor, I would reserve that at the appropriate time to do that.
Are you making a motion now, or?
Yes, so if this is appropriate time to take the 24/5, to take that part out of the budget amendment, that's my motion.
All right, there's a motion on the floor to amend this budget amendment to remove the funding for a national search for a police chief. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Burke. Floor is open for discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Manager.
I will say this. If this commission removes this 24/5 from this budget, this is a disservice to our residents, to our community, and to our region. I am a prior police chief. If we did not need a national search for a police chief, I would not have recommended one. I seen what we have in the crop when we received major applications. Okay, and a lot of the majors were previous chiefs. I see what we have in the crop. But it's the commission's will, it's fine. Know that the process is going to take longer. At this point, I'm directly overseeing the police department, which is the extra burden on my shoulders with 2 new lieutenants. So if the commission wants to put that weight on my shoulders, I continue to do my job, but I adamantly disagree with it. And I've never been this passionate in almost the year I've been here. We just agreed to pay $100,000 to replace an air conditioner. And I can get $24,400 or $500 to do a search. I'm bananas. I don't know. I'm confused. I'm confused why I'm here. You guys brought me here for change. I'm confused.
All right. Floor is open for discussion. Any other more comments on this item, on this amendment?
Mr. Manager, Mr.
Commissioner
Mayor.
Burke. Commissioner Burke.
Mr. Mayor, to the manager, I'm not saying that, you know, the person have to come from Chicago, the person have to come from New York. All I'm saying is that we have, and I'm sure when you put out your search for a major, you didn't put it out for the whole state of Florida. I mean, it's like you're not giving the police community in the state of Florida any credit. I understand that they can also apply, but in hiring a police chief is not like hiring a city manager or a city attorney. I know ultimately you have the final decision to hire the chief. All I'm saying is Opa-locka is 4.4 square miles. We have, I know, several good police chiefs in the state of Florida who would probably be up for this challenge. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that, you know, you bringing somebody from Chicago because you're from Chicago. I'm not saying you're bringing somebody from New York, but I'm just saying Florida is unique in law enforcement. And what happens if we spend this 24,000 for a police chief, and we end up bringing him from Florida anyhow? I'm sorry if you feel like, you know, it's bananas, but I'm just saying, the state of Florida is well equipped with qualified and certified police chiefs. And once they apply, they're gonna send their resumes. We do have an HR department. I mean, that's not something that's gonna just be on the weight on you. So I'm just saying that 24,000 to do a national search, that could be used here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
On the amendment. Oh, Vice Mayor Davis.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Pate, you said you don't know why you're here. I'm gonna tell you one of the reasons why I voted for you to come here. Number one is because of your experience as a police chief. I lean on that experience. When you ask about our residents and what they want to see in this community, I doubt that any of our residents are fighting for a national search for a police chief. I think what our residents want from their local police department is accountability. And that's something they have never had. Never had. Our residents never had that from the community, from their government. We're literally sitting here in public meetings and people are dying. People are getting shot. I see the emails coming through on my phone. Like, and I just can't, how can I say this? I know I'm one of the most passionate people when it comes to violence and you know, I know it's not always the most popular argument to make. But Mr. Manager, when we brought you here for change, that was, in my opinion, that was the change that I had in mind. That was the change that I had in mind. So for me, it's about accountability. I understand that I guess you want to do a national search because, you know, that's your professional opinion. And you know, as someone who voted in favor of you coming here, you know, I support that. You know, I hear your recommendation. You know, I think all of us, you know, hear the national search. But what we're saying is this community, it needs leadership, it needs accountability. And I don't know if a national search is what's going to necessarily get us there. I mean, sure, we could weigh out the options. I mean, we could do what we can locally as far as looking, you know, looking for talent. You know, or we could go the national search route. But in my opinion, I feel as though, you know, it's not as needed. And I doubt that our residents, you know, when I'm meeting, when people are coming in my office from Glorietta Gardens and these communities that experience, you know, around the clock violence, they're not talking about we need a national search for a police chief. They're saying we need police officers to be accountable. We need police officers patrolling our communities. We need police officers that are going to fight for us and not over police our communities when we're in our lowest moments. So think about that, Mr. Manager. Think about that when you make comments like that.
Mayor Paget.
Commissioner Bass.
If I may, to the city manager, I'm just wondering, have you spoken to or mentioned this to the police department, to our officers, our lieutenants, our sergeants. I just want to know what their take on it, if you have any, as it relates to having someone that's local. And when I say local, state of Florida, how far, or national. I'm just curious on their take, because they are the ones that has to work in that environment, and they have the history, of, what goes on in the police department. I'm just curious.
So I mentioned the notion through the mayor. I mentioned the notion of a national search to the rank and file. I didn't get any feedback one way or the other. All I was asked to do is bring competent leadership to the department. And here's the purpose for a national search. Really, it's to know that you looked at all possible people with the background and experience to do the job. I've seen national searches done by cities by practice just to do the due diligence. And guess what? They end up selecting the deputy chief that's already in the department. But they did the due diligence and looking at other candidates. And they said, oh, the guy that's internal is the guy we want. It happens all the time. It's for transparency purposes. It is for accountability purposes. At the end of the day, if the commission wants to yield and to remove this money, I will do my best to find a qualified police chief. I'm not going to stop the mission. But at the end of the day, we all said we were here for change and doing things differently. In the old way of our HR department doing searches, gaining applicants, fielding things, I have issues that I'm dealing with as far as applicant information being leaked out of the Human Resources Department, people knowing the candidates' names before interviews are done, that I'm looking into at the current moment. So to have an outside third party to do a search of this magnitude, I think is very, very important, especially with confidentiality concerns and the political climate that we're in. We're in election season in Opa-locka. Opa-locka. And you guys want me to do a search independently within the city of Opa-locka to find a chief in this climate? I'll do my best if you guys cut the money. I'll do my best. But I assure you, you all will know all the candidates' names before it even hits my desk.
Mr. Mayor.
So, we do have to wrap this up.
I understand.
I got you, Commissioner Burke. I got you, Commissioner Burke. So let's wrap that. We have an amendment on the floor. It's a power of the majority of whether or not we're going to take this out and go against the mayor's recommendation. So, Mr. Burke, Commissioner Burke, if you can do your statement, and then let's just vote. And okay. It is what it is.
Okay. No. What I just want to interject is, first of all, it's this is not being done like it's been done before, Mr. Pate. We're not putting somebody in there that's unqualified. We're asking you to do a search for a certified, a qualified, and experienced police chief. But we're just asking you that it don't have to be a national search. That's all. We're not, we're not telling you who to put in there. We're not bringing, somebody that was a sergeant and putting in there. We're asking you to get us a qualified, a certified, and experienced police chief. And in my opinion, I'm sure you can find one right here in the state of Florida. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. So before we vote on this item, I just wanted to keep in mind to my colleagues that the manager does run the day-to-day. He has a very clear understanding of our HR and what we can do to recruit. And also that has to be taken in consideration with the difficulty, as Commissioner Kelly mentioned, of us recruiting a finance director. I do agree that we probably should put some money into recruitment for a finance director too. And if possible, both are going to be combined, I'll allocate even more money to get a finance director and also a chief police through a national search. But keep in mind that this is coming from our manager, who has a very thorough understanding of our city, and also police departments, and also experience with national searches, and what he needs. So with that, Madam Clerk, roll call.
This is for the amendment?
This is for the amendment? Oh, okay.
For the amendment
Okay.
to remove, this is amending the budget to remove the city manager's recommendation for allocation of funding for a national search.
Commissioner Bass? Commissioner Bass, your mic is muted.
No.
Okay. Commissioner Burt?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis?
On the amendment, no.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Paget?
No.
Motion failed, 3-2.
We have a motion on the budget.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, motion failed, 3-2.
Yes. All right. Now we're talking about the budget amendment with all the changes that was proposed for this budget amendment. Any other discussion on the main motion for the budget amendment? All right. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Bass?
Yes.
Commissioner Burt?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Mayor Paget?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. So with that, we have concluded our items on this special commission meeting. I want to thank everyone for taking the time during our, usually we'll have a break during this time, but we still got to put in work. Much respect to our officers that had to leave in order to deal with something. And we will be back early next week to do a special commission meeting and also a workshop. Have a good evening, everyone. Oh, hold on.
Excuse me, we didn't do a motion to adjourn.
Sorry. Motion to adjourn, you're right.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bass. This meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.
Okay.